Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It is Tuesday, August 18th. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. Thank you for choosing to be here to find out what's impacting you here in Northeast Ohio with the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Today, we'll be taking a look at the big moments from the Democratic National Convention, which kicked off yesterday virtually. Also, fact-checking some of the claims that were made at the convention by the various speakers, and letting you know what to expect from Governor Mike DeWine's press conference today. We do expect him to talk about sports, so we'll be taking a look at that. And then we'll also be taking a look at back-to-school preparations and some anxiety that people may be feeling. Some schools are actually starting back to school today here in Northeast Ohio. And then we'll take a look at today in history. 100 years ago today, the U.S. guaranteed the women's right to vote with the passing of the 19th Amendment. We'll tell you a little bit about that and how here in Northeast Ohio, we were a little bit ahead of the curve in that respect. First up, let's take a look at the big moments from last night's Democratic National Convention. In case you missed it, that kicked off yesterday. That'll be running all week through Thursday from 9 to 11 p.m. Yesterday, we do know that former Republican Ohio Governor John Kasich spoke at the convention. He said, "We can all see what's going on in our country today and all the questions that are facing us, and no one person or party has all the answers. But what we do know is that we can do better than what we've been seeing today for sure." Now, as a reminder, former Ohio Governor John Kasich ran against Donald Trump in 2016 for the Republican nomination. He did not win. And after he did not win, obviously, because Trump went on to become president, he did not support President Trump, and he has been a very vocal critic of President Donald Trump. Well, Trump tweeted today in response to Kasich's remarks at the Democratic National Convention, where he came out in support of the presumptive Democratic nominee, former Vice President Joe Biden. Trump tweeted today, "John Kasich did a bad job in Ohio, ran for president and was easy to beat, and now went to the other side desperate for relevance. Good job by Chris C. in exposing yet another loser." Well, Kasich wasn't the only Republican who spoke at the Democratic National Convention yesterday. There was also former New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman. There was also Quibi CEO Meg Whitman, who was also the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, and former Congresswoman Susan Molinari of New York. These are all Republicans who spoke on Monday. And there were also Republican voters who spoke. So there was a bold move by the DNC to present a case that they are saying that there are some Republicans who are siding away from Trump and in support of Joe Biden. Here's something else that was different at the virtual convention. Joe Biden already had a presence. So at previous conventions that happen in person, we will often see the nominee talked about a lot from the podium, but you don't see them typically until the last day of the convention. Well, that was not the case. There were several cameos from Joe Biden throughout that, including a virtual panel and other video snippets throughout the DNC. That was something that was very different. It'll be interesting to see if that continues through the rest of the DNC. He is scheduled, of course, to be the closing speaker on Thursday when he is expected to formally accept the Democratic nomination from his home state of Delaware. Also, former First Lady Michelle Obama was the headlining speaker at the DNC last night, and she took a very different approach than what we saw from her previously. If you remember, in 2016 at the Democratic National Convention, she coined her famous phrase, "When they go low, we go high," and made it a point to never mention President Donald Trump by name. However, yesterday, she did take a very different approach. And she also referred back to that quote of, "When they go low, we go high." She said that does still work today. She said going high is the only thing that works, because when we go low, when we use the same tactics of degrading and dehumanizing others, we just become part of the ugly noise that's drowning out everything else. And then boldly did go on to call President Donald Trump out by name. She said, "If you think things cannot possibly get worse, trust me, they can, and they will if we don't make a change in this election." She called Trump in over his head and the wrong president for our country. She also said he cannot meet this moment. It is what it is. Those were her exact words. Trump responded today tweeting this, tagging Michelle Obama in the tweet. He said, "Someone please explain to Michelle Obama that Donald J. Trump would not be here in the beautiful White House if it weren't for the job done by your husband, Barack Obama." Those were some of the key moments from the DNC yesterday. Now let's take a look at a couple of the claims that were made by people that spoke. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who is a Democrat from Nevada, she said that in 2016, 33 million Americans voted by mail, and Donald Trump has requested voting through absentee ballot twice this year. She made this statement in reference to the fact that President Donald Trump continues to sow doubt in the mail-in voting system across the U.S. Well, what she said yesterday was true. The numbers that she said do match up with data from the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission. And also, Palm Beach County online records show that President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were sent absentee ballots not only for Florida's presidential preference primary back in March, but also for the state's regular primary election. They were sent those ballots on August 18th. As well. Oh, the election, is August 18th. That's today. So they were previously sent those ballots from Palm Beach County. A claim made by Senator Bernie Sanders that we are amid our worst economic collapse since the Great Depression has also been verified as true by our Verify team. This is by most measures of economic health, although, of course, there is not one single measure to judge the health of an economy. But according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate in April was higher than it had ever been for a single month since 1948. That's the first year that we have included in data by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Also, that unemployment rate is still in the double digits, and that has only happened for a single month during the Great Recession. We have more information on that as well on WKYC.com. One more claim to fact check as well, although there are more on WKYC.com. While talking about the United States Postal Service, actress Eva Longoria said Social Security beneficiaries count on the post office to get their checks. This is also true, although the majority of them do not, but yes, some do. Hundreds of thousands of people still receive Social Security payments through the mail, but that is less than 1% of monthly Social Security beneficiaries. So, according to the Social Security Administration, there are about 550,000 Americans who receive a mailed check with Social Security payments. That was just in the month of August. That is less than 1% of the 64 million payments that are made, but that is still a lot of people. 500,000 people is a lot of people. So whether or not Social Security checks are still mailed has been a big point of contention recently. We do know that is true for about 500,000 Americans. The DNC will continue tonight. That will be from 9 to 11 p.m. tonight, also Wednesday night and Thursday night. We'll be streaming that on WKYC.com if you'd like to watch that. You can also watch it directly on their platforms. If you go to demconvention.com/watch, you can see portals where you can watch that as well. But definitely we'll be streaming on WKYC.com. And we will have a special on Channel 3 from 10 to 11 p.m. And of course, that will be followed up by the 11 p.m. news, which will be breaking down the major moments from tonight's speakers and everything that happens tonight at the DNC. Here in Northeast Ohio, we expect to hear from Governor Mike DeWiene today about high school sports. He said last week that he would be talking about high school athletics today during his press briefing last week. He says it's about the kids. We'll have all the details. We are working out the details. That's what DeWiene said on Thursday. Now, Dr. Frank Esper of the Cleveland Clinic told 3 News about the main health concerns with school sports from a medical perspective. He said there are a lot more problems with sports than there are with schools. Schools don't move, sports do, which obviously is a great point. He was talking about busing students around from all over for these inter-school competitions and how that could potentially spread COVID-19 should someone be positive within one of those teams. Dr. Esper also said that the contact between athletes is at the top of mind. He says when you're bringing a lot of people into an enclosed space, that's what this virus really wants. He's talking about a look toward the winter sports that happen indoors. He says this virus wants indoors and a low wind flow, so that's definitely a concern. We'll be streaming DeWine's press conference on WKYC.com and also on our Facebook and YouTube pages today. That'll be at 2 p.m. Now, speaking of school, today is the first day of school for some families here in Northeast Ohio, and anxiety is definitely running high as we try to figure out how to live amid this coronavirus pandemic. We've already seen outbreaks at youth camps and colleges that have tried to go back to in-person learning. University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, my law school alma mater, has actually had to go back to all online classes after trying to start in person after just a week because of COVID-19 outbreaks. Well, here in Northeast Ohio, parents are definitely trying to figure out how to make these decisions for these families. We talked with one parent. Our 3 News Tiffany Tarpley talked with parent Shelly Steinmetz. She has a 5th grader at Lindsay Elementary School in Chesterland. That's in the West Geauga School District. Shelly says she feels like they didn't have enough time to make a decision. She said, I know it seems like we had 3 months, but it went by so fast and no one really knows what's happening. There's so much uncertainty right now, so it's really hard to make decisions. So for Shelly, what she decided to do, even though the West Geauga School District is all online for the first 3 weeks, she opted for her child to stay online when others go back to in-person learning starting after Labor Day. But different families are taking different approaches. In the West Geauga School District, about 70% of families have chosen to go back to in-person learning. Someone who has done that is parent Tara Bogner. Tara has both a child in 3rd grade and 5th grade, and she said her children play sports and she feels like it's good for them to get back into the classroom with their friends. She did say it feels different. She says, I've got to be honest, I wasn't happy with the 3 weeks starting virtual because she did choose in person and she does work. So that's going to be difficult. No matter how you slice it, everyone is facing unique circumstances at this time. Access to virtual learning, the digital divide, so many things to take into consideration. Lots of people going back to school today. We're sending everyone out there well wishes and hoping everything goes for the best, and fingers crossed that things go off well and without a hitch here in Northeast Ohio as some families return to school today, whether that be virtually or in person, whatever that situation is. Now let's take a look at today in history. Today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, and 100 years ago today, American women were guaranteed the right to vote on this day. In honor of this occasion, President Donald Trump has issued a pardon for Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony was arrested in 1872 for voting in Rochester, New York, and she was convicted a year later. So Trump will be issuing a pardon for her today. Now, the 19th Amendment, which guarantees the right for women to vote, that was ratified nationwide on August 18th, 1920. That amendment reads, "The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation." So, we became a country in 1776. That happened in 1920. It only took us 144 years to get there, but we got there, so that's great. Here in Ohio, though, we were a little bit ahead of the curve. We can proudly say that East Cleveland was one of the first places in America to acknowledge women's right to vote. East Cleveland did that on June 6th, 1916. Governor Mike DeWine also tweeted today about the Ohio role in women's suffrage movement and tweeted out a link where you can learn more about that. That's at ohiosuffragecentennial.com. We also have that linked on wkyc.com, so you can check that out. Now, today, on this 100th anniversary of women being guaranteed the right to vote nationwide, it is 77 days until the November 3rd election. That is 11 weeks. So here are some reminders for you about deadlines. You need to register to vote in Ohio by October 5th. Our Ohio Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, has reminded us and told us that everyone who is registered to vote will be mailed an application to vote by mail right around Labor Day, but you don't have to wait. If you want to vote by mail, you can request that application today. You can actually download it yourself if you have access to a printer, and you can mail that back in. And at that point, if you do choose to vote by mail, you send that application back in, then you'll get your vote by mail ballot. And everyone is saying, experts are saying, officials are saying, you need to send that back as soon as possible because of everything that's going on with the U.S. Postal Service, changes that are being made by the new postmaster, Louis DeJoy, and also tight deadlines when it comes to getting those things back. So if you do choose to vote by mail, you have to postmark it by November 2nd. But the post office has warned that might be a tight deadline in order to get it there. So people are being recommended to send those ballots back as soon as possible by October 20th if you can. Now that's for the actual ballot, remember, not the application. Send that application in, get your ballot, send that ballot back as soon as possible. And you do also have the option, of course, to drop that ballot off in person by 7:30 p.m. on November 3rd, which is Election Day. And of course, you have the option to vote in person. And there are definitely precautions being taken. spaces being opened where people will be able to hopefully keep that physical distance. But lots of options to get your vote out this election year. That's it for your 3 News Now early update for Tuesday, August 18th. We'll be back here at 3 p.m. with your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app, as well as those new numbers from the Ohio Department of Health related to COVID-19 here in Ohio. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I will see you back here shortly. I'm Stephanie Haney.